Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. Today we're going to look at this Golf. It's a 2003. This particular one is a TDI, but what we're doing today doesn't really matter. A common problem with these Golfs, and indeed Audis around this year, is the windscreen wipers seize up on them. So we'll have a look at this one today. Okay, so the first thing is very simple. We're just going to take the wiper off there. On these Golfs there's a little bit of a cap. Just use a small screwdriver and that should pop straight off, like so. Just a little. And then basically what you'll find with this nut on here on the windscreen wiper, it's a 13mm, so we'll just take that off. What you'll find is the nut itself comes on very easily, so you shouldn't have a problem with that, but quite often taking the wiper off itself can be a bit of a challenge at times. If it's been there a long time, they do tend to seize on. Now what you'll see on a lot of YouTube videos is they'll suggest banging on that to try and loosen it. I don't advise that, because all you'll end up is rounding the top and you'll never get that nut back on there again, making the whole thing useless. But if you do want to hit it at all, put a piece of wood on there or something, that should help. And this one's come off relatively easy. And then all that you're basically doing then is just taking the wiper on. Exactly the same thing on the other side. Both wipers are off. The next job, to get to the actual wiper itself and assembly, is to take this plastic piece off here, which is basically covering the whole thing. It's this piece here. Now all it's held on to is by 4 tiny little screws at the other end, some Phillips screws, and then it's just a case of pulling it off. There is a bit of a technique to get it off though, so you don't break it, so we'll have a look at that. We'll just move over to the other side of the car, have a look at the screws that we're going to remove, and then we'll take it all off. Okay, I know it's hard to see, it's pretty dark under the bonnet, but these are the Phillips screwdrivers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's remove them now as the first part to get to the wipers. Just a small Phillips screw. And the last one. And then you can also remove this pad as well, get that out of the way. And then you're left, this is just free, it's just very simply held on at the back here. Some people use various tools. If you're going to use a tool, I would just use sort of like a plastic tool to remove this particular panel, and it, like I say, it goes all the way along, and that's what covers the wipers, the wiper motor and the wiper arms. What I usually do is come down from the glass here and start prising up from the back. This one isn't in too tight, some of them are tighter than others. But like I say, go easy, you don't want to break the glass, and you're not kind of like pulling it from this way, it is just going to lift up from the back. And this piece separates, just like so. and then we can lift the whole thing out. What we also find under this part that we took the 4 things, this part lifts off as so, because that actually goes and comes to the cabin air filter, so we might as well do that at the same time. Let's have a look at that. Okay, and I've got you right inside. Like you can see, this filter is really bad condition. I don't know if it's ever been changed. Something not changed for a long time. Like I say, this is a 19-year-old vehicle, so it could have been there for some time for sure. You've got little clips on the side just to hold them on, and the whole thing comes out like so. You also get to look at inside, inspect it, make sure it's nice and clean. But basically, this is for changing. So I'm gonna, before I do anything else, I'm gonna put a new one of these on. Okay, and this is the particular filter I went for. It's CUK 2862. It's like a carbon activated cabin air filter. So I'll just put that straight back in there. I know that's not really the job we were doing today, but we might as well do that while we're in here. There we go, and that just clips back into place like so. So we've got nice clean air going into the cabin now. Like I said, it was a secondary job. We'll now move on to the actual job we came to do, to look at, you know, the arms and what the arms basically do on the wipers. This seize up over time, so we'll have a look at that now. And these are the wipers, the arms itself. You can see the wiper blade would attach to here. The arms go down the back there, and just underneath there, we can't see it at the moment, is actually the motor itself. The motor itself, I know, is going to be fine. It's these arms that seize up, and basically what they do, water comes down here, and there's a little clip and then a washer, then an O-ring here, and after a while water seeps in here. The grease, the sealed grease in there, dries up, and they go to the extent where they can't be even physically moved. Now you can restore these, take the clip off, take the washer, take the O-ring off there, remove it all, take any rust that's on there, put it back together again, and it will work for a certain amount of time, anywhere up to 6 months, before it will seize up again. So what we're going to do, we're going to completely replace these arms. They're very cheap. Really, if you took it to a mechanic, it'd be more costly for time than the actual part itself, and it's a very simple remove. All that we've got holding it together is one nut here, that 110mm nut here. There's another one down here, and there's one more over here where the other wiper would go. So we'll go ahead and get these removed and take it all off and see what we've got. This one down here is the trickiest one because there isn't that much room to get to, but it's not difficult. There is room to get there. It's just a little bit more impeded by all the wires and cables, etc. So you'll find it'll take a little bit longer to remove that one. And there you go, they're just a kind of like a short little 10mm bolt. And there we go, that is free, apart from the actual cable itself that's actually holding it on. And it's a bit of a riddle actually to get these out. They just about fit perfectly. You can have to guide it around the wires, etc. Careful there isn't any other wires clipped on there, but there should just be one wire that's holding. There we go, as we can see, or not. This is the clip in question. This is obviously the motor for the wipers. It can sometimes be a bit tricky to get at. It's kind of like pushing this into the hole and pushing it back, and then it'll come off like so. You can see it's just a connector, and this little white clip here goes in this little hole. That's usually what stops you. Sometimes they can be harder to get off once you've got dust, etc. in there. But there we go, we can now take this part off. Okay, so we got the part out, as you can see, and I'll show you what usually sort of like seizes up on these. It's basically all these kind of like rust out, and it rusts inside here, and this completely seizes up. I'll show you quickly how you can get in there if you do want to do a bit of a restoration on it. It's just basically held on with some clips. So first of all, you get this sort of like clip holding it all on, followed by a washer, and then under that there is a little O-ring. These O-rings are tend to what fail. Like I say, water goes down, then rusts it all out, and it seizes up. There we go. And you can see I've attempted it previously. Put a bit of grease on there to try and lubricate that up. This will now push out like so, and this is basically the part that does actually seize up, and it rusts all the way along here. Here I've got a second O-ring at the bottom as well, but you can see I've tried to clean it up a bit. It lasted so long, but it will seize up again. Like I say, if you do, once you're taking all this part at the start, you're taking the white arms, that's what you would be taking the screw off. So be careful if you're banging these if you're going to use these parts again. Like I say, it doesn't really matter if you're going to change the whole unit, but if you're going to hammer that too much, you'll never get it back together again. Anyway, I've decided to replace all this, so we don't need to do too much more on it. So here we go, this is our new part that I've ordered. That's the code if you are interested. Like I said, this is for a 2003 Golf. And there we go. It moves lovely and easily, which is certainly something the old one didn't do. What we'll have to do, of course, this is the bracket for holding the motor off. So we'll have to take the motor off the old motor and put it back on here. Bear in mind when you're doing this to try and keep it in the same position on the new one as the old one, because that will set it to the lower position on when the actual wipers are working. So just keep in mind on that while you change it over. And again, it's a very simple job. It's just held on by 1, 2, 3 nuts to remove the motor. So let's do that now. Sorry about the glare from the sun, etc. Like I said, this is just another 10mm, and we're just removing those 3 nuts. So it's not really something difficult. And number 3. Now if we take the old arms this should stay apart. We've also got to take this off as well, I was forgetting. Find what I've done roving. Is this going to be another 10mm? It's not, so it's probably going to be a 13mm on there. And that is what it is. Very loose again, particularly not. And that should remove everything we need. Hopefully that will come off. Like so. Also, like I say, so we'll get the new piece, and the motor is going to go on this particular piece, and like reverse, we'll put that back together again, put them 3 bolts in there, attach this onto the motor again, and it should be ready to put back into the Volkswagen again. Okay, so we've got the new piece now. It's ready to go back into the car again. Same process of taking it out. There's just 3 bolts that need putting back in, and of course don't forget to clip in the power to the motor. And there it is, back into its housing again. Like I said, these 3 bolts, 1, 2 and 3 was all that was required to actually put this back together again. As we can see, we go along, there's that filter I put in earlier on. So all we need to do now is put that grill piece back on there again carefully. It's very easy to break that piece, although you can get new ones, but with care you can just carefully put that back in again. This basically is the little slot that piece goes into, so that's what it pushes into there, and that's all that really holds that in. And then of course the weight of the bonnet itself, so that's why you're pulling it up and you put that final piece back on. But we'll get that piece back on there now. I've just gone ahead and put them 4 screws back on again where that cabin air filter was, and you can see it's roughly back into place. I've not gone any further around here, just to show you. I'll give you a better idea where this is. This is where it pushes into, and all you're going is to be carefully going along this gap and pushing it back in there. And I just should do it by hand. There's no real special tool required. Just go easy until it actually pops back in there. A little bit difficult to do while holding the camera. And then there we go. So all we've got really left to do is to put the wipers on back on here and here. And like I say, if you just restored the old piece and you started hammering on them, you might never get the bolts back on, so you may have wasted your time. But like I say, we know we put a new piece on here, so we know them wipers are going to go nice and easy, so we'll just put them back on and then we'll finally do a test. And there we go, there the arms back on again. Sometimes you might find, depending on the motor and how it's positioned, that the first time it might go below the screen or go too far. You may have to just take them back off and then adjust them slightly, pull them back on, put the bolt back on again. But we'll try them anyway and see what happens. And that's pretty much perfect. I don't need to adjust those at all. They've just gone back in the correct position like so. One little thing though, once you have tightened these little nuts up, if you can still see them down here, don't forget to put that little black plastic washer back on there. That is one of the reasons why water goes down there as well and seizes them up again. So we'll put that little cap on there and it'll be good to go. So there we go, that's one little job done on the Golf. Just an old car I picked up, so I'm sure there'll be many more jobs we have to do in it. I'm not a professional by any chance. I just like tinkering with these old cars, so I'm sure there'll be a few more videos coming up. But for now, we'll say please do like and subscribe. We'll have more videos coming up, mainly brochure videos like we've had before, but maybe occasionally one on a car or two. So we'll say take care and goodbye.